Good afternoon. My name is Emma Dittmar, and I am one of the librarians here at the Rocky River Public Library. And this afternoon, I'd like to show you some databases and some information we have about accessing the various newspapers using the library's website as the gateway. So I am going to be sharing my screen. Okay, this is the library's website here. And what you're going to want to do is you want to, the library's website, I should say, is www.rrpl.org. And what you're going to want to do is scoot over to the research resources, which is right here. And when you hover over it, you'll see that you can see a list alphabetically, or you can see a list by subject. And I'm going to go by subject today. So I'm going to click on Research Tools by subject. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoot on down to the newspapers and magazines, which is right here. Right here, you have newspapers and magazines, and we have access to a wonderful bunch of sources. But I'm going to start with the source that I like the best, and it is America's News featuring the Plain Dealer. And I'm going to click on that. Now, when you click on that, if you scoot down a little bit, there are blue rectangles on the right-hand side, and there you have direct access to some of the major newspapers in the state of Ohio. When you're doing this from home, you are not going to see this major metro titles. I'm not sure why, but it's not there. But if we'll just take a peek here at the Plain Dealer collection, and you have access to the Plain Dealer full text, this first one, back to 1989 to current. This is just the text. If you want to look at the newspaper the way it looks the day it's published, that goes back to 2018. And I'm going to click on that. And then today is May 14th. So I'm going to click on that date. And you could be home or be on your device and read through the newspaper the way it looks the day it's published. So that's very nice to be able to do that. But again, this isn't terribly historic. I'm going to go back. This is, let's see if it'll go back. It says it goes back to 2018. Let me just peek at that quick. Okay. All right. It looks like you could get the oldest you'll get where the paper looked like the paper the day it was produced is back to 2018, March 6th. Okay. But we're going to go back again. As I mentioned earlier, you do have access to the text part of the newspaper back to 1989. I'm going to go back again. Okay. So again, if you're interested in the Toledo paper, the Cincinnati paper, the Columbus paper, Dayton, those are available right here, and you can just click and look at today's paper. The part that I like a lot about this is this USA locator map. I'm going to click on that. And what happens is it brings up a map of the United States and a list of all the states here alphabetically on the left-hand side. If I click on Ohio, which I really didn't need to do, I could just scoot on down here to Ohio, And you'll notice that I have access to 117 sources, 117 newspapers in the state of Ohio that I could look at. So I'm going to click on it. And this is where it gets kind of fun. Of course, not everything's here. Not everything is very historic, but you'll never know what you're going to find. So I'm going to, let's see, let's go further here a little bit. Okay, now this paper here, for example, the library doesn't get this in paper copy, the Medina Sun, but you have access to the text of that newspaper back to 2007. Okay, here's our plain dealer again. So here we have the Sandusky Register back with text to 2006. So depending upon your interest in any part of the state, you know, it's a place to look to see if a newspaper is available from that state. Personally, my first library job was in Nebraska. So I'm going to just take a peek at Nebraska, and I'm going to scoot on down to Nebraska. And for the state of Nebraska, there are 27 sources available. So I'm going to click on that. The town where we lived was Columbus, Nebraska. And I have access here to the Columbus Telegram. And the library that I worked for in Columbus, Nebraska is in the process of building a brand new library, which is really exciting for that community and for that county. And it's going to take them 2 years to finish it. But if I want to, I could click on this and see if there's any updates as to how that project is going. And I do that occasionally. I'm going to go back again. My family is originally from North Dakota. So if I look at North Dakota, again, I'm just clicking on that, which is not necessary, but I do it anyway. In North Dakota, I have 23 sources to look at. So anyway, depending upon your interest and where you might have family, you might check out to see if the local newspaper is available from that particular community. Okay, I'm going to go back now to my research tools. And again, we got that by going to the Rocky River Public Library, clicking on research tools, and then scooting down to newspapers and magazines. The next thing that I'd like to call your attention to is something called Global News Stream, which is right here. And this, just by this front page, just looks more academic. There's all kinds of stuff buried in here. But what I wanted to call your attention to was what they have labeled up here, 3 databases. And again, I'm just trying to give you highlights of what I've discovered by looking at these databases. I want to look at the US news stream. And again, with these databases, it's always a manner of clicking through and seeing what you can find. And sometimes you have to click multiple times to find whatever it is you're after. I'm going to go into US major dailies, which is right here. And you'll notice that in this database, we have access to the Chicago Tribune, the Los Angeles Times, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post. Now, the library here subscribes to the bottom three. We get in paper copy, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. I'm sorry, we do not get the Washington Post. We get the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. But the other ones we don't have. And the ones that we do have, we don't keep them for very long. But if we were interested in the New York Times, and I click on that, the subject, the coverage of it goes back to 1980. I'm going to go back. If you were interested in the Washington Post, it goes back to 1987. So there's a lot of stuff available in this database. I'm going to back out a little bit. I was going to take you to a quick look here at the international news stream. And let's look at the European news stream, just as an example. And I can look at the publications that are actually a part of this database. But if I go to the advanced search, what's kind of interesting is, okay, I'm looking in European newspapers, and I can choose, if I want to, the languages that I'm interested in. If I'm interested in information from Danish sources that are in Danish, I can do that. Same with all these other languages here. My impression of this database, especially these different parts of the world, news stream, excuse me, is that it's more advanced, it's more educated. It's not for the general public. But if your language of your birth is Czechoslovakian or something, and you just want to read a little bit in Czechoslovakian, maybe that's okay. You know, I'm not sure. But this is a neat thing to find in this database. And the languages, of course, change depending upon what part of this you go to. If you go to the Asian, Australian, New Zealand, European, Latin American, Middle East, and African news stream. So again, if you click on one of those, go to the advanced search screen, you might be able to find newspapers in a language that is useful for you. I'm going to go back again. So anyway, my suggestion with all of this is to just take a little bit of time and see what you can find. I'm going to go back. Actually, I'm going to go back then to the research tools again. Again, to do this, what we did is we went to the library's website, rrpl.org. We chose research tools, and we went to newspapers and magazines. Now you'll notice that we have pulled out specifically the Chicago Tribune, the Christian Science Monitor, the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Washington Post. So if you were interested in those particular newspapers, you wouldn't have to go through the global news stream source. You could just click on the specific newspaper that you're interested in. Okay, the next thing is that I'd like to share with you is something called Chronicling America. And this is provided by the Library of Congress. And I know it's probably difficult to see, but this is a collection of historic American newspapers, some of which go back as far as 1777. Now, the coverage is hit and miss. The coverage for some of these newspapers is very skimpy. My impression is that they're adding to it as time goes on. So anyway, I'm going to go to up here, all digitized newspapers. And again, it's going through layers. And I'm going to show all digitized newspapers. And the states are listed alphabetically. If I was interested in Alabama, for example, the very first one on here is called the Age Herald. It's from Birmingham, Alabama. It existed from 1897 to 1902. I could actually browse the issues if I wanted to do that. This is telling me that there are 1,630 issues of that particular newspaper available here. That goes back to August 1st of 1897 and stops on May 20th, 1902. So I'm going to get out of Alabama. We're going to go to Ohio, and I'll probably make you dizzy by doing this. I'll try and do it quickly. We're almost there. Okay, here's Ohio. We finally got there. And you've just got a mixture of all kinds of stuff, and some of them are in different languages, and my impression is that some are in Polish, Czechoslovakian, and German, and English. Now, let's say, for example, you were interested in Ashtabula. And here we have the Ashtabula Telegraph. Existed from 1874 to 1880. There are 314 issues available, and then this is the time frame of what is available. There's the Ashtabula Weekly Telegraph, which existed from 1853 to 1873. And again, the number of issues and the time frame of those that are digitized. Here's something called the Ashtabula Weekly Telegraph. This one, although it existed from 1880 to 1886, there are just 42 issues, and it covers just March 5th, 1880 through December 24th, 1880. So there's a small sample of that. Let's go down to Cleveland. Okay. Now here we have, I'm not real familiar with any of these newspapers, but here's the Cleveland Daily Leader. That goes back to 1865. The Cleveland Leader, which is back to 1865. Here's the Cleveland Morning Leader, which goes back to 1858. And then something else called the Cleveland Tri-Weekly Leader. Now this one has got a very small sample. There are only 6 issues. Tri-weekly, I'm guessing, means every 3rd week, but this is the time frame, August 3rd, 1861 to February 6th, 1864. I'm going to go back up to North Dakota just to show you an example of a newspaper, what it actually looks like. My father was born in Ward County, North Dakota in May of 1918. In North Dakota, here is the Ward County Independent, which was just a weekly newspaper. And I got all excited because the time frame is January 17, 1903 to December 28, 1922. So I'm going to click on the Ward County Independent. You know, back in the early 20th century and before, anytime there was a birth, a death, a baptism, a family reunion, a picnic, anything, often it made it in the personals in the local newspapers. So I'm going to look here at calendar view, and I'm going to skip ahead to 1918. My father was born on May 8th, 1918, and there was a newspaper published on May 9th, May 16th, May 23rd, and May 30th. And I'm thinking that maybe my dad's birth might be mentioned. Don't know, never heard one way or the other, but who knows? So I have spent time, not in the May 9th, because that would have been too quick, but I've spent time in May 16th, May 23rd, and May 30th, just looking to see if by chance his birth is mentioned. So what happens is you get the newspaper the way it actually looked, the day it was published, and you can get a PDF version of the newspaper, which makes it a whole lot easier to read. And then you can skim through the paper. You actually can do a Control-G, and my dad's last name was Kaufman. And I'm going to tell it to search, and it's not mentioned. But it is definitely worth my time or your time if there's a newspaper from a certain time frame to look and see if there's any mention of your family in it. I'm going to go back. And I'm going to go back. And I can do that with each of these. I don't think I'm interested in the Voters of Minot or J.C. Penney, but there has to be, and I know there is, personals in this newspaper. And my dad might be mentioned, although I have looked and looked and looked and I can't find him. So I'm guessing no. The little town that he was from was called Foxholm, and it's just a little bend in the road. And at least at this time frame, there is no mention. Now, I did say before that these newspapers, they're adding to it as they're found and as they're digitized. So my suggestion to you would be, if you're interested, I'm going to go back again. And I'm going to start here at the beginning of this again. And this is neat for people that are interested in genealogy or family histories or just a date in history. Take a look at all digitized newspapers. Show the digitized newspapers. Pick your state. See if there's anything for the city or county that you're interested in, and spend a little time digging. Actually, personally, I could spend hours in here looking because I have genealogical interests in multiple states. I'm going to go back to research tools one last time. The last thing I wanted to show you is something here that's called EBSCOhost, newspaper source. Here it is, newspaper source. And it is part of the EBSCO databases. And with students generally, with EBSCO, I suggest that they go to the advanced search right away. Type in whatever it is you're looking for. Tell it to look for full text and see what you can come up with. I'm going to go back. You can take a look at the publications, and you could type in a newspaper, like for example here I see the Akron Beacon Journal, and it's telling me it's full text. I'm not sure How historic it is. Well, it's pretty current though. It says May 2021. But anyway, and it's just not Ohio. You know, kind of look for anything. Like here's the Albuquerque Journal, for example. Let's see how historic this is, or if it's current. Okay, now this one is not terribly current, September of 2018. But you just really have to investigate, try, and see what you can find. With students, EBSCO host is very, very helpful. I just want to click on that quickly. And I'm going to click on all EBSCO host databases. There is a database in here for everyone. General information, computers, teachers, middle school students, newspapers, health, more academic, business, more health, psychology. For the little ones, here's primary search. So anyway, there's lots of good stuff buried in here, but today I just wanted to pull your attention to the newspaper one. Okay, so just to refresh what we did, we started at the Rocky River Public Library. We went to Research Tools. We clicked on Research Tools by Subject. And from there, we scooted on down to newspapers and magazines. I hope this has been helpful to you. Again, my name is Emma. If you have any questions about anything dealing with the newspaper access we have using the library website as the gateway, please call us. Ask to speak to anyone at Reference, and we'll be very happy to help you try and find whatever it is you're after. I thank you for your attention. Bye.